The video game Bleak Faith has used AI illustrations. Corridor Digital broke the internet by using an AI program to make an animated short film in the style of Vampire D: The Bloodlust. And videos of the last few US presidents discussing random parts of nerd culture are everywhere. Artificial intelligence has made a notable impact on the internet, and even in the short time since our last discussion about it, several major cultural events have occurred surrounding it. Welcome back to SHREDDIT, where we are continuing our interview of voice actors about questions, concerns, and protections against the use of AI in the voice acting industry. Once again, we have our returning hosts, Reborn Pyro and Lumia Stargazer, joined today by myself, Sour Lemon.
We also have a few returning faces. Let's let them introduce themselves, starting with the NAVA VA. So, yeah, what's up?
Hey, what's happening? Good to see y'all. My name's Tim Friedlander, a voice actor, studio owner, producer here in Los Angeles. I'm founder and president of the National Association of Voice Actors, an advocacy association for the voice acting industry across all genres, all platforms, union, non-union, FICOR members in the United States, but also working with a lot of voice actors in Colombia, Spain, and Canada as well.
Nice.
And thanks for having me back.
We appreciate you coming as well.
And I am Mike Pollack. You might know me as the voice of Dr. Eggman. Even if you don't, I'm still the voice of Dr. Eggman most of the time in most of the games of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. And I do all sorts of other stuff. Right now, I'm here to fight for our rights, not to party, but to have our voices belong to us. Hi.
I mean, you can't have a party if you're not there yourself, you know what I mean? If it's just your voice, it's not you. And returning from part 1, we also have Zxerian, who has observed others using AI software to generate voiceover lines for video game cutscenes and the like. And also, between these two interview parts, Zxerian has decided to become a voice actor as well, or start on that path.
Best of luck.
Well, you love to see people join the craft.
We also have some new faces, too. Firstly, Oda, an indie voice actor who has been looking in the industry for a while. In 2 sentences, could you tell the audience about your opinion on AI and its interactions with the voice actor field of work?
Oh, God, 2 sentences?
2 sentences.
Was that one of them?
All right, those are the 2 sentences.
Oh, my God.
I lost my chance.
Bro, I just died for a moment there.
You can't wish for more wishes. It doesn't work like that.
AI, it's an interesting piece of technology, and I think it's fun, but I don't think it should be used to replace people and their efforts and what they can actually do.
And lastly, there is Lake Toya, a Newgrounds indie voice actor who has been in the community for quite some time. In 2 sentences, could you tell us, the audience, what your opinion on AI and its interactions with the Newgrounds community has been? And has it been a negative or positive experience for the people at Newgrounds?
Yeah, sure. As far as I've seen on Newgrounds, it doesn't seem like AI is really prevalent there much. I mean, I've seen some people in the community, like, do some funny little jokes, right? Like, you know, maybe replicate the president's voice in a funny little post, but nothing really involving their work. They kind of seem like, I would say it's relatively kind of looked down upon to incorporate AI into your work in that space. But I know there's a few who are kind of for it, but yeah, I would say overall it's not so great in there. So yeah.
And we will likely discuss the reasons why. Now, let's get started. Technology, regardless of what it is often referred to as a tool by people who broadly support technological development, referring to how it is humans who ultimately decide how the technology is used, whether for good or ill, accessibility, or plagiarism in the case of AI-generated art. How much do you think this sentiment applies to the field of voice acting, and how can it be used as a tool to help voice actors, and does this offset the harm it can and will be used for?
I'll let you guys go first.
I'm contemplating that one. No, go for it.
Let's see. Well,
I do have listed a few ideas that I came up with for uses of the technology, whether they could be good or bad, if you would like to.
I mean, I can talk to some of the good uses of this technology, depending on, what we're talking about. I think one of, at least our, my personal stance and the stance of NAVA is that we're not anti-AI. I said this last time. We're not anti-AI. We're pro-voice actor. We want to make sure that we have control and the ability to approve of and use our voices, have our voices used where we approve of them and be compensated for them. But there are, many places this could be used. We talk about training manuals a lot, or COVID protocol as websites that need to update this technology, or need to update their forms. You could license my voice to update all of your training modules in real time as you're adjusting them, and I would compensate me fairly for that. I would license my voice out for that. The New York Times, any major newspaper, which I think I said this last time, is any major newspaper, to help the community that can't physically read these newspapers or read magazines. There's a place for that technology to be used. The concern is when this technology is used to replace human voice actors, as opposed to filling in the holes where human voice actors can't provide the work that we needed to do. We just can't it's not humanly possible to narrate the New York Times every night from the time it's printed to the time it goes out on the streets. And that would be a possibility of using this. Those people who are nonverbal, I spoke with somebody a couple weeks ago who she was excited about the possibility that her daughter could have a synthesized voice that matched the energy and sound of her daughter. And that was an excitement for her to take somebody's voice and create it that would match with her daughter, as opposed to using a digital computerized voice that doesn't actually authentically sound like her daughter. So there are uses for this. The fear is that it's going to replace or be used without our approval or compensation for the usage.
Along the same lines as things you mentioned, you could also use it to translate into foreign languages as well.
For sure, that's definitely a possibility. There are. Again, that would potentially put a dubbing actor out of work, and so there's a potential for that. But the flip side of that is that as a director, then you would have the ability to control what this dub looks like and sounds like. And from a creative on that side of things, you would then have control to tell the story the way you wanted to in any language.
I think, it's definitely a tool to be used, but I don't think a tool is a proper replacement for a human being.
Exactly, yeah.
You brought up the maybe using AI as phone lines, right? So you get you hire a voice actor for the initial voice, and then they use AI to replicate that for phone lines. And I actually never really thought about that, and I think that's kind of a cool implementation. But aside from that, I really don't think it can be used to replace people. Yeah, and then, I don't know if we're going to get into this later, but I'm pretty sure you guys have questions about this. I'll keep it short and simple.
I think it comes mostly down to what it's used for. If it's used for something really personal, then I do think it has perfect uses and it sort of belongs there, but I don't think it should be used for a full free use for someone to just take your voice and make you say something defamatory and horrible. Using it to reconstruct somebody's voice, because they lost the ability. I think that was done for Top Gun Maverick, I believe, to help support you rather than replace you. That's what I think it should be used for.
One of the big challenges is in a professional world, we've got contracts and releases and stuff where you license your voice and you obtain permission. But now that the AI engine has become democratized and anybody can use it with a few keystrokes, not asking anyone for permission, that creates a problem. It's now Pandora's AI.
On the consent sort of thing, I remember seeing a news it was a part of the news with I think it was Lester Holt or whatever, but they had talked about how a movie had used AI and they had worked with a company, and that company actually has a system for we talked or whatever. So that's an interesting development from the consent of the voice actor or whoever it is that you're sampling the voice from before you can use the AI.
Many of the companies who are doing this, legitimately have that compensation in place. They have that approval in place. The voice actors have approved of having their voice recorded. They've approved of having it synthesized and digitized and made available. It's the other options, as Mike was saying, where it's done without approval, without knowledge, without compensation, that now we run into conflicts. And Mike was saying, I think contracts is a question in here, but one of the things to think about is that if I'm doing a voice for one, for one soft drink company, and my synthesized voice is doing another soft drink company, who's in conflict? Am I now liable as a voice actor? Does that put me legally in conflict with this company because I'm actually doing competing brands without my knowledge? So who actually is at fault for that? Because something would happen. You can no two brands, Coke and Pepsi, you're not going to allow the same person to be the voice of both of their companies. So what happens and who's responsible for that? And that puts the voice actor in potentially a very dangerous position to be in.
If only we had the lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, the lawyer's answer would be, we don't know yet. The law hasn't caught up with this. So
right.
We're forging
Exactly.
a lot of new ground.
No pun intended.
Absolutely.
That's definitely the problem. We're going so far ahead with technology that laws have to still catch up. Where back then it's like something new came up. Okay, we have time to catch up to this, but now it's NFTs. Do you want to get into that? Well, first, like the banks they've only thought of the idea. They haven't even been able to regulate it, start it up, and then we just move on because we're so fast. We're just going on to the next, the next, to the next.
Solved the issues that they already have.
Topical reference.
Yeah.
To add into that, yes, it hasn't caught up, but also it's already falls under, if you're talking about SAG-AFTRA union contracts, it already falls under the jurisdiction. AI and synthetic voices are not in any of the collective bargaining agreements that SAG-AFTRA has, so they legally cannot be used according to these contracts for anything in a SAG-AFTRA union project. And along the same lines, licensing and likeness, that's the kind of the foundation of how a lot of these contracts work, and that's in there already, right? The rate that it costs for residuals to license and to use something is already in these union contracts. The problem is the majority of the voiceover work, 80 to 90, depending on who you talk to, 80% of that is not covered under union contracts. So you have this wild west of voice actors who have to not only be their own agents, but their own marketers, and their own lawyers and their own negotiators. And it is overwhelming sometimes because there is no protection. You can sign a contract and unknowingly give away your voice, and unknowingly have given away your voice. And potentially, for new voice actors, anybody who wants to become a voice actor, if you take these, I just need to get a job and I'll sign anything, you potentially could do one job and never work again because you just gave away the rights to your voice. You gave away that company, that video game company, that dubbing company, that whatever company. Now, according to this contract, has the rights in perpetuity across the universe in all technologies known and unknown to do with what they want to with your voice. You have essentially put yourself out of work for the duration of your career, and you will never work again. That's potential.
There's the wilder west of, hey, look whose voice I just sampled in this homebrew engine, and I'm now making them say horrible things. There's no contract there at all.
Sometimes I'm glad to be in indie VA land, right, where we just play it fast and loose. Hey.
Fast and loose, but potentially fast and having lost your voice down the line because it's just gone and taken. Potentially, that's the fear, and this is where I think the danger lies for primarily currently for those who are new in the industry who just aren't aware of what some of these things mean in these contracts, and even those who have been in this for a while and not aware of what these things mean in their contracts, right? Simulation, digital simulation, some of these character simulations, some of these things meant one thing a year ago and now means something completely different. So that's where my fear run comes, right? I'm worried for those who want to get into this and make a career out of this. Let alone all of us who are already in this industry. The potential that work's going to disappear. The entry-level work is going to go away. The beginner work is going to go away. The ability to, why would somebody, an indie, if they have, a very, very tiny budget, if they could get a synthesized voice for half the price of a voice actor, there's the potential that that's what they'll do. And a lot of times, that's how I got into this. I got into this, Craigslist jobs for $50 for something on an online casting site that paid $75 that got me into this industry. Those jobs are going to go away first, I think.
Yeah, see, For me, it's just like, hey, I'll give you $50. I'm like, sounds good. Thumbs up. That's my contract.
Exactly. Yep. And so then the danger in that is that do you have any safeguards on what they do with that audio file that you just gave them?
No. See.
And and to add to that, many of us don't know, Mike included, those of us who have been doing this for years, over the last 10 years, have we been giving away our voices? Have our voices been being used to train these engines to create these synthesized voices without us knowing about it? Have we unknowingly trained our replacements over the last decade?
So
As I love to say, everyone loves the show but forgets the business, and the business part is actually pretty important.
Yep.
So we do have
Absolutely.
some questions targeted towards corporate, the corporate part of this. But as you said, you are not anti-AI, you're pro-voice actor. But to what extent do you agree with the following statement given by ProZD, who is formerly a very famous internet personality, but now also a voice actor? Synthesizing a voice takes the soul and spontaneity out of a real-life performance. How do you feel about that?
I agree with that. I mean, it takes out, it takes out part of what acting is one, reacting. It's a cliche, but it is reacting to something. It's reacting to what's happening in this environment, but it's also reacting to the memories and the emotions that this line is going to bring up for somebody. And no AI synthesized voice is going to be able to recreate a memory that I had when I was 8 years old that is sparked and brought up by this character or this line or this scene that I have to read. Now, some people who care, if you care about the emotion and the acting and the performance, then you're not going to replace that with a synthesized voice. If you don't care about that and all you need is just technically a voice that can say these lines, then you're going to go in that other direction and a synthesized voice will not be a concern for you. But I agree with that statement.
I
Absolutely.
agree with it too, and I would say, let's take it in terms of live theater. Would you go to see a play or a musical done by AI? I mean, ABBA is doing that. They have their replicated show, which is a sort of different animal. It's ABBA done digitally. They were sampled and recreated, but that's a spectacle unto itself. You're not going to go see Death of a Salesman by all these legendary deceased celebrities on a screen. No, if I'm going to the theater, I want to see actors acting live for me.
That reminds me of hologram Michael Jackson. That was weird.
And
Didn't
that's
they-
fine for the spectacle, but not for the run-of-the-mill play.
Didn't Google start running a program that started making automated Seinfeld episodes or something?
I don't think that was Googled. I think that's just somebody on Twitch.
Yeah, that was a random guy on Twitch. He made everything was randomly generated on the spot procedurally, but it was just AI Seinfeld.
That
It just gradually became
Until it got
taken down.
Yeah.
Boy, I
Well,
sure
it
can't
didn't-
wait to watch Hamilton with dead actor Harold Ramis.
It didn't get taken down. It actually just got banned because, whenever you're just randomly generating, eventually you're gonna come across something horrible.
Yeah, this was actually seen quite some time ago with Microsoft. They released a tool not dissimilar to ChatGPT, which learned from what everybody was saying, I think specifically on Twitter, and within 24 hours, it immediately became incredibly, racist and
Oh yeah.
not politically correct. And they had to immediately take it down.
A million monkeys and a million keyboards will eventually generate a lot of dirty Shakespeare.
Exactly. I don't think I agree with ProZD's statement. Just because, maybe it's because I'm a Zoomer. I grew up internet age, but there's a lot of internet content where honestly I don't think I would see it the same without, because it's been the Microsoft Sam voice for certain really funny videos I've watched, and I don't think it would be the same with just a normal person's voice. So I think in certain creative efforts, a generated voice can have its benefits. And yeah, I think that's probably a product of me growing up online, and I hear Microsoft Sam voice and I laugh like like a kid watching a television, jingling keys.
I mean, it is hard to predict technology 50, 70, 100 years from now. And while it is definitely true right now that an AI cannot replicate the soul and spontaneity of a real life performance, it is entirely possible that in many decades it could.
I hope we're dead then.
I'd say in many. I'm gonna say it's gonna happen sooner than later. I would say. I mean, look at what's happened in the last few months. Look at where at Chat GPT 4 already. Right, it's exponentially better than it was a few months ago. We are going to be at an exponential growth and improvement of this technology, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this year we see something substantially realistic and better than we are seeing right now.
I've seen like reports that like people are using it to help their coding jobs. In fact, some of my friends actually not gonna name names, but some of my friends have just been like, the night was a little busy, so I just had ChatGPT write my college essay, and I was like, well, it can do that.
We'll see how long until it gets caught, and we'll see how long that lasts.
AI in itself.
Crazy.
Or if it's accurate.
AI has wonderful possibilities. I have one of the dozens of podcasts I subscribe to is not meant really for human consumption, so it's a lot of duplicate episodes. And I would love AI in my podcast app to say, this episode, this episode, this episode, all duplicates, ignore them. I've transcribed them, I've compared them, ignore them. They don't have that yet. Do that. That would be useful.
Oh man, I can't imagine having a podcast that nobody listens to, and that's made for AI. Definitely never.
I wouldn't worry about that yet.
One interesting thing that I have found out recently is that there is like an AI that can like take like somebody else's like singing performance, right? And then you feed it somebody else's voice, and then you can hear that person that probably doesn't have like any singing capability whatsoever, and they can sing the song exactly how they would sing it if they could sing. Like the other day I saw a cover of 1,000 Miles sung by the Scout from Team Fortress 2, and I was like, oh my god. And it had his accent and everything, that Bostonian like flair, and I was like,
yep.
Okay, we're going there.
Now you're getting into speech to speech technology. Speech to speech technology, which you could have. But speech to speech technology still requires a performer in some capacity, right? So you're hearing the performance of so and so. It could be you're hearing Tim's performance in the sound of Barack Obama's voice, but this is Tim's performance, and that's a potential that could definitely be there. Now, I want to make sure I'm compensated for that, and so should whoever the voice they're using should be compensated fairly for that. And that really, to me, is the crux of this, is that, if you're going to use it, then let me know that you're going to use it, get my permission, and license it as you would any other, or compensate me for the performance or the usage of the sound of my voice.
You see, that's the funny thing about the video, because Team Fortress 2 is owned by Valve, their copyright policies or whatever allow the voices to be replicated, which is very weird how they predicted that several years before.
Yeah.
But that's just a very small example of
interesting.
Yeah, go ahead, use the voices however you want.
Yeah, and that's great. You have permission, and hopefully, whoever the actors were compensated. I'm guessing it was probably done so long ago that they're not, because it wasn't even a possible. You didn't think about that was.
Oh yeah, that game came out in 2002.
Yeah, and it definitely was not a possibility. We weren't having this discussion 6 months to a year ago, right? So imagine, 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, this was not even a possibility. You're thinking, oh, that's going to be decades down the line. But that decade is here. We are here.
All right, let's...
It's, amongst other things, yes.
Let's jump ahead a little here into public opinion, which is the next category of questions. AI is effectively capable of infinite content generation, taking what's been made and becoming a self-generating machine of that forever. Are new ideas and new content important, or do you think the public will be content with slight iterations on the same thing forever? How does this idea apply to voice acting? To what extent do you think new voices and voice lines are necessary?
Humans are content sponges. If something is being broadcast, someone will be watching it. And there are plenty of people with nothing better to do than sit and watch crap. So, yeah, does the quality of the content make a damn difference?
Literally watch the exact same thing over and over, and they're like, "This is so
True.
interesting."
And there's plenty of content created by humans that's just garbage. Oh, yeah, I would say, that is, now we're getting into an existential discussion about whether there's something new, are we going to become complacent and not care about something new? Are we going to be okay with this? I honestly have no idea. I think that there is a consumer protection aspect to this, in that we, as a consumer, regardless of what we're consuming, we have a right to know whether it is human or digital. Same way that we should have a right to know whether it's GMO or not GMO food, whether we're eating organic, whether something that we're consuming, because, we're consuming food for our body, but we're consuming content for our soul and our emotions. And we should know whether, I feel that we have the right to know whether what we're consuming is human or digitally created.
This is very much a generational argument too. Those of us with,
I think was that Oda? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
There was somebody jumping in. Sorry, I think Oda's still very quiet. Was that you?
You can go ahead, Mike. I can go after you.
Or was that Toya? Sorry.
Those of us with more salt than pepper in our hair are probably a little less tolerant of the AI concept, and get off my lawn. But the kids today don't have the same problems those of us of a certain generation do.
I think, honestly, I think the human element is kind of almost always integral to these kind of things, right? Because I've seen things like, they're now like putting out streamers that are the AI Seinfeld, and then I've seen streamers that are just AIs, and
Neurosama.
yeah, Neurosama, and the thing is, I don't think these things would be like very entertaining at all without. It's almost like the people watching take an active role, right? Because I think you'd have to be clinically insane to watch AI Seinfeld, just like without chat, just like watching in a room and just be like, yes, this is what I enjoy. Like, you might be a serial killer if you're doing that, but and with Neurosama, I mean, half the fun of this like AI VTuber is, trying to convince her that, we should kill humans and that robots are the superior race. And, it's just like slowly like feeding like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if there was like a robot uprising, and then like just like watching, the AI slowly say more and more stuff like that, because it's funny. But that I don't think that would be the same. It's whenever it's without like the human element of like chat and like people interacting with that, it's just kind of, it seems almost like nonsense. So I mean, maybe it might change in the future, but I don't think it holds up on its own.
AI can be thought of a microcosm of a greater concern people have had since the Industrial Revolution. Automation replacing humans in the workforce and taking their jobs away. While the broader economic effects of the automation are multi-layered and complicated, one thing that has not been done to reduce the workforce. I hear a little bit of an echo and it is throwing me off, I'm sorry. Does anyone else hear the echo?
I don't hear an
It's
echo.
just me. Am I insane?
But I can't tell who it's coming from.
Pretend you're at Yankee
Okay,
Stadium,
glad I'm
you'll
just
be
not
fine.
insane.
What if we all are?
I'm glad I am not insane then. How similar are your concerns for those who think robots are stealing their jobs? Are there lessons to be learned from how automation was implemented so that AI does not severely affect employment of voice actors and other artistic jobs?
Robots are great for tedious stuff. There's plenty of work that I do that I would rather have a robot do. But for the stuff that requires creativity and spontaneity, humans are much better at that.
I would agree with that. I think I mean, there's something to how automation is like affecting. It's not just like artistic jobs; it's also like normal jobs, right? And at what point is it's just like, okay, well, what do people do now, right? How do you make money? And like the thing with like more artistic endeavors, I think the entire point is that, you know, it is like kind of what like expressing, like humans expressing themselves. I think kind of replacing that with AI is, I don't know, it almost defeats the purpose. So yeah, I think maybe maybe like humans have just kind of, we're moving forward too fast, and like we don't have a lot of.
We're definitely going a little too far. We haven't really slowed down and looked at ourselves and said, you know, maybe this is good. Maybe we should slow down and fix the problems that have come up at this point, because there's a lot. I feel personally like we're at the point where this is good. We just have to, you know, we just have to clean it up and fix it. But we're too fast. We created the automation to help take care of the things that we wanted to, you know, put that off to the side so we can focus on something bigger. And we've got addicted to how easy it is. Where, you know, let's, you know, if we can save a little bit more money, we don't have to hire this person or this person. It's like, you know, we've got addicted to making it easier.
Yes, I have a question, teacher.
So you have your pencil.
Since the last part of this podcast interview, whatever the crap you want to call it, but I have begrudgingly paid for a subscription for 11 Labs and have uploaded multiple like samples of voices or whatever, including my own. And like there happens to be a slider for like variety or whatever, and that can convey different emotions or whatever. But the thing is like it like while it does seem pretty cool or whatever, it's like you can't really predict when it's going to, like, you know, actually have the right tone that you want. So you would have to keep on feeding it until you get exactly what you want. And it's like, sure, while that might be the same case for somebody that's doing a voice, it's like, you know, how about we try it this way or whatever? Or like, how about we try with a bit more, like, you know, anger or whatever? It's just like, it just sounds weird because, like, all of a sudden you could be talking about pie or whatever, and it's like, boy, I sure love apple pie. And it's like, stop. I cancel my subscription.
There are some things that just need the human touch. You know, you go to a restaurant, you say, "Can I want a big burger with extra cheese, not too much ketchup." You could give that to any robot, and it says, "What's not too much ketchup?" Like anybody who makes burgers, like, okay, I know the right amount. This is the minimum. Let me see. You know, you just can't say, can I get a little bit of this? You need to give very specific directions. And, you know, it's going to take way too long to get what you want. Whereas you could give it to anybody, say, hey, you know what to do. And there's so many different interpretations that don't need to be fed to them.
That is an interesting point with the how you have to specifically train the AI to do it. Because, for example, with the Corridor Digital anime rock, paper, scissors, what a lot of people, when they comment on how it's stealing, and it is stealing, but what they fail to recognize is that they did spend multiple months, like, really finessing the AI and a lot of what it was doing, and there was actually a lot of artistic input into what they were doing when creating it, regardless of how they presented it as a video.
And it still looked bad.
It still did look worse than normal anime.
Well, the latest things are those robotic froyo machines, which are fun to watch, and they make a fine product, but when they fail spectacularly. All it takes is one missed cone. Yeah,
You just remind me of like the like flying animatronic that they have at Disney World of Spider-Man. They have it like soar through the air at times or whatever, but then there are some times when it fails and it like hits a building or whatever, and it's the funniest.
Yeah, you can look online. You'll find videos of the robotic froyo machines, and all it takes for them is to just miss one cone, and there is yogurt and toppings everywhere. Yay!
Yeah,
Robotics,
free.
AI, good job, thank you.
Mike, this froyo lore is something I've actually never heard of. I'm kind of curious now.
Please, YouTube, robotic froyo, good, enjoy. Correction, robotic froyo, fail. You're welcome.
Moving into a related question, workers' rights are always an uphill battle. You have to contend with legal loopholes, government lobbying, less funds to hire a legal team as compared to the corporation you're fighting against, and more. Let's say that the legality surrounding AI content becomes either a legal case in a higher court or a bill being debated by Congress. What do you see as the best methods to get your voices heard and your rights assured in those situations?
Nobody is safe.
Sue the pants off of everyone.
Well, I was kind of thinking about that, and like, I don't know, it's not really a problem like me as a indie VA has to face, right? So like, there's nobody out there going like, oh, that Toya guy. Listen, I've been gunning for him for years. I'm getting that voice. Fingers crossed. But I don't know. It's kind of a scary thought that like, because it's a scary thought that somebody could just take your voice and like I was, this is a little off topic, but I was scrolling through Twitter like a couple weeks ago, and I saw something along the lines of they were talking about the AI voice acting, and you know, people were saying, oh, this will be great for the modding scene, right? We can replicate Ronnie's voice. And I thought that was a little, I really didn't like that. I think it's kind of like scary that, you know, a lot of people, like, I don't know, it's one thing whenever you're like making like little funny joke videos online, right? Whenever you have, you know, President Biden playing Pokemon, it's just like, okay, it's a funny little joke. But whenever you're like creating like whole mods, and it's just like, okay, well, we can completely bypass the voice actress and replicate her voice. Hello, cat. That just seems like a major like breach of, I don't know. It just seems like you're definitely taking agency away from the voice actor.
All right, well, thank you, everyone, for joining us on this in-depth and instructive look into the rising tide of artificial intelligence and its impact on voice acting. We have what it means to be a voice actor, what is different about AI voices as opposed to human ones, to what extent the voice constitutes a person's identity and qualifies as an intellectual property, how AI can be used as a tool for productivity, how AI can be used as a tool for exploitation, why the public should be invested in this topic, who should be held for improper use, and most importantly, what the voice actors whom this technology impacts are doing to prevent their livelihoods from being negatively impacted. To all of the listeners who care about what path the future takes, please share this interview around, interact with it in whatever way the distribution platform you're using provides, and do whatever else you think will have a positive outcome, such as signing on the open letter for NAVA. On the other hand, if you are craving unproductive, silly, unhinged conversations about the brain-broken internet residents, subscribe to the YouTube channel, where we roast Redditors regularly. Also support us on Patreon for bonus content, and follow the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/SHREDDITofficial for irregularly occurring game shows and miscellaneous live content. Thank you once again to all of our guests and listeners, and until next time, this has been your hosts,
Reborn Pyro.
Lumia Stargazer.
and Sour Lemon, signing out.